And then Lord Chaitanya's praying, when will my voice choke up when I chant the name? And when my hair stand on end? And when will tears like torrents of rivers flow from my eyes? And in separation from you, Krishna, I'm feeling a moment to be a yuga. Because it's hard for us to imagine what a yuga is. Sometimes it's translated as 12 years or more. That's love on the spiritual level. That means Krishna is manifesting so profound and so personal and so genuinely in our hearts in those feelings of separation. So as the gopis were on the banks of Manasi Ganga waiting for Krishna, a moment was like 12 years or more. And Srimati Radharani and gopis were all having kirtan. They were chanting Hari Dev, Hari Dev, Hari Dev, Hari Dev, and suddenly a murti of Krishna, as a little 7-year-old boy lifting Govardhan Hill, appeared right in their midst. And they named him Hari Dev. And they could see that this murti is Krishna. This is Krishna's body, this is Krishna's personality. This is Krishna that has come in the form of this wonderful murti. And they offered the water of Manasi Ganga. And they offered flowers and fruits. And they chanted and they danced and they offered their hearts and their lives. And this became a worshipable deity for the gopis of Vrindavan. After 4,500 years, Srimati Radharani in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Haridev temple. And when he saw this beautiful form, tears pouring from his eyes in love, his arms raised, he danced ecstatically while chanting the holy names. And all the villagers from all directions started coming because they heard this beautiful personality filled with love is singing kirtan. And he induced all the Brijabasis of the neighborhoods to chant and dance with him in the presence of Sri Haridev. And then he took rest that night. And at Brahmakund, just near Manasi Ganga, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, his assistant, personally cooked for him. Brahmakund is the kund where Lord Brahma, filled with his tears, and brought water for the bathing of Krishna during the Abhishek after the Govardhan Leela. Speaking of Govardhan Leela, Govardhan Puja was 2 days ago, so I'm going to make a calculation. According to Srimad Bhagavatam and our acharyas, Ani Amavasya is Deepavali. On the first day of the waxing moon is Govardhan Puja. That's where Krishna arranged that wonderful purification for Indra. And they made the mountains and mountains and mountains of prasad all the way. It was several miles from Anior all the way to around here. Just massive mountains, Anukuta Kshetra. And then on that day, Krishna manifested right on top of Govardhan Hill. And he, in an enormous form, he ate all the offerings and brought it back as prasad. Then on Krishna's instructions, they gave prasad to everybody who was assembled, and they worshipped the cows, and they circumambulated Govardhan Hill, and everyone was happy. And the next day was the day when it celebrated the relationship between Yamaraj and Yamuna, his sister. And on that day, it's a day when the sisters perform puja for the prosperity and the happiness of their brothers. So Krishna and Balaram went together, and many of their sisters, cousin sisters, the daughters of Upananda, Abhinanda, and they were giving prasad and doing pujas and singing songs, and it was loving reciprocation between Krishna and his cousin sisters. That was the second day. And the third day, because Indra was kind of waiting for something, and when nothing was offered to him in 2 days, that's when he got mad. And that's when he poured down the rains. So according to my calculation, Govardhan Puja was the day before yesterday. Yesterday, Krishna celebrated on bank of the Yamuna with his sisters, and today is the day that he lifted Govardhan. And the next 7 days that we're here, he's still going to be holding Govardhan. If you have the eyes to see. But in spiritual life, we see through our ears. We see through the words of the scriptures and the words of the true saints. So through these stories, and through mercy and grace, we have the faith by which we can see it in our hearts. We could feel it. We could be in that Leela even now. Manasi Ganga, just on one side is Chakreshwar Mahadev. The scriptures tell us that when Krishna was lifting Govardhan Hill for those 7 days, so many people wanted to help Krishna. The cowherd men were holding the sticks underneath thinking, I'm helping Krishna. And the gopis were glancing at Krishna, energizing with their love, we're helping Krishna. And Yashoda Mai was feeding little cakes in Krishna's mouth, thinking, I'm giving Krishna energy. And Sudarshan wanted to help. So with Krishna's blessings, he was twirling around above Govardhan Hill, and he was evaporating most of the water that Indra was pouring down through these Samvartaka clouds. And after the 7 days, Sudarshan Chakra understood there is no place in all of existence more dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead than Vrindavan. And he was witness to this pastime as he was doing his seva. And he asked permission, I want to eternally reside here at Govardhan. So Krishna gave him a place right at Manasi Ganga, which is called Chakratirtha. And Vajranabh, Krishna's great-grandson, established a temple of Lord Shiva there. In Mathura, Bhuteshwar Mahadev, In Kamyavan, Kameshwar Mahadev. In Vrindavan, Gopeshwar Mahadev. And at Govardhan, Chakaleshwar Mahadev. And Sanatana Goswami, he lived right in the banks of Manasi Ganga. For some time, he had his bhajan kutir. May I speak something about Sanatana Goswami? During these yatras, there's really no beginning or end, so I'm just going to talk. Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and their younger brother Anupam, they were born in the Saraswat Brahmin community. And through various generations from Karnataka, their families were living in Bengal. And Sanatan, when he was very young, he had a dream. In the dream, a effulgent, very beautiful Brahmin presented to him the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then he woke up from the dream, and he had a whole library of books, and he was looking, but he didn't have a Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was really anxious, lonyam. He was eager to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, so eager. He was praying for that Srimad Bhagavatam. And that very day, someone came to his door. It was the exact same Brahmin that he saw in the dream, and he gave him a Srimad Bhagavatam. From that day, Srimad Bhagavatam became the very life and soul of Sanatana Goswami. He and Rupa Goswami, they would read it and read it and read it. Their whole life revolved around the Srimad Bhagavatam, which culminates in Sri Radha's pure love for Krishna and Krishna's pure love for all living beings. As they grew, they were so intelligent, so expert, so loved by everyone, that the king, the Mughal king, the Nawab Hussain Shah, he heard about them. Because he wanted to go out and conquer lands. But he needed somebody who would, or he needed them to come and rule over his kingdom with him. Because everybody would listen to them because they were so kind and so gracious, so expert. So he made them the prime minister and home minister. And they only did it to somehow or other subdue his persecution of the innocent followers of the Vedic system. And he was so proud of them. He was so grateful to them. He made them his brothers and shared all his wealth with them. He built them magnificent palaces equal to his own practically, gave them large tracts of land, gave them enormous wealth, prestige, power, everything. But all they wanted is Krishna. They just loved to read Srimad Bhagavatam and chant the names of Krishna. They wanted to go to Vrindavan. They felt so guilty. And once Sanatana Goswami had a dream where this incredible personality appeared. He was a sannyasi with a beautiful golden complexion. And when Sanatana Goswami saw Lord Gauranga in his dream, he gave his heart to him. And Lord Gauranga smiled and told him, you should go to Vrindavan at the right time. So he woke up from the dream and told Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami said, I heard that this Lord Gauranga, who is Krishna himself, we understand from scriptures who he is. He's living in Jagannath Puri. So they were writing letters to Lord Chaitanya, asking what they should do. We seem to be trapped in this lamentable condition of, but we just want Krishna. We want to serve. So they wrote so many letters and never got any reply. And finally they got a reply. And it basically told them, just carry on with what you're doing. Don't be attached, just be attached to Krishna. And in due course he will give his mercy. And sometime later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on his first attempt to go to Vrindavan, he came with hundreds and thousands of people to Ramakeli performing Nam Sankirtan. And Nawab Hussain Shah, the king who hated Hindus, who outlawed any public practice of any Hindu ritual, Lord Chaitanya came dancing right into the very capital of his kingdom while he was there with hundreds and thousands of people very loudly chanting. The king asked one of his assistants, what is this noise I'm hearing? The person explained, this beautiful golden person. I don't know who he is, but I've never seen anything like it. He's so beautiful. He has large arms that extend below his knees. His complexion is golden, and his eyes, which are like lotus petals that seem to be extending to his ears, they're pouring rivers of tears as he's chanting God's names. And hundreds and thousands of people are surrendering their lives, their fortunes, their everything to him. And they're all chanting the names of Hari. We've never seen anything like this. Sometimes he jumps up and sometimes he falls to the ground in ecstasy and rolls around and then jumps and chants and induces everyone to chant. And I see everyone is in the ecstasy of love of God. We don't know who he is. That's all. So now Hussain Shah, he called one Keshav Chatri, I think his name was. He was a devotee actually, but he was one of his ministers. He said, tell me, who is this sannyasi that has come? And this person was afraid if he said anything, the Nawab Hussain Shah was so violent and so hateful and so arrogant that if he told him what was really going on, he was afraid he would send his armies to attack. So he said, nothing. It's all rumors. There's just a sannyasi, a simple little sannyasi. He's come to town. He's not much doing anything. People are making rumors about him. Don't worry about it. You know what Nawab Hussain Shah said? He said, why are you committing offense? I have to pay people so much money to do anything for me. Or else I have to threaten them with fear to surrender to what I'm saying. But this sannyasi, he's not paying anybody anyone. He's not causing anyone any fear. And everyone's surrendering their body, their minds, their words, their lives, their souls to him. And he's so beautiful, and he's always weeping in ecstasy. I can understand he's the one God. And you're calling him just an ordinary beggar. You are making a great offense. And the king proclaimed, this sannyasi who is chanting and dancing, he could go anywhere and do anything he wants, and he has my full support. So all day this chanting and dancing was going on. And finally some devotees arranged Lord Chaitanya to stop. And if you go to Ramakeli, there is a tamal tree and a kadamba tree in a little secluded place. And Lord Chaitanya was sitting there around midnight, and Rup and Sanatan disguised themselves incognito along with their brother Anupam. And they secretly went to Lord Chaitanya. First they approached Lord Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, because they understood we cannot approach the Supreme Lord directly. It's only by the mercy of their devotees. Nityananda Prabhu is Guru Tattva, and Haridas Thakur, even though he was born in what society considered an untouchable family, because of his deep attachment to the holy names, Lord Chaitanya proclaimed him the Nam Acharya, the Acharya of the whole world for all time to come, for the Yuga Dharma of the chanting of Krishna's holy names. With the blessings of Thakur Haridas and Prabhu Nityananda, they brought the three brothers to where Lord Chaitanya was sitting on the ground. And all three of them, they offered their prostrated obeisances before the Lord. And they were weeping in humility. Lord Chaitanya had to pick them up. And they offered prayers. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita describes these prayers. First, they were glorifying him. You are the Supreme Lord who has descended into this world to deliver the most fallen. But wherever you may go, you will not find anyone more fallen than us. We are so degraded. We are so sinful. We are so low. We have no right to even approach you. What is the chances of a little tiny dwarf to touch the moon with his finger? We have less chance than that. But still, you are Patita Pavana. You are the deliverer of the most fallen. Therefore, we have no one else to turn to. You delivered Jagai and Madhai. They were murderers and thieves, and they were always intoxicated, and they were raping people, and they were so malicious. But they were from Brahmin families. And you induced them to chant the holy names. So it wasn't so difficult for you to deliver them. But we are more fallen than Jagai and Madhai, because Jagai and Madhai never became the servants of very, very sinful, exploitive persons like we have. They were crying, begging for mercy. As long as there's pride in our heart, we cannot beg for mercy. To the degree we're really humble, we really don't think we deserve, we can beg. And it is that humility alone that actually tunes us into the frequency of Krishna's grace. As they were speaking, Lord Chaitanya started to cry. That means they weren't just saying it out of fashion or out of poetry. They meant it. They felt it to the core of their heart, what they were speaking. Lord Chaitanya said, "Stop. Your humility is breaking my heart." And Lord Chaitanya spoke. He said, "I've received your letters. And I could understand what is your character, what is your behavior, and what is your motives. You brothers have been my servants always." Lord Chaitanya placed his lotus feet on the top of the heads of Rupa and Sanatan. And he gave them at that time the names. Your name will be Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. And I accept you as my own. They advised Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, better you don't go to Vrindavan with such large crowd of people. This is very instructive right now. Better you just go alone or with one other, then you could really experience Vrindavan nicely. Because Lord Chaitanya was not with 5,000 people. He was with millions of people by that time. So, at Kanainata Shala, Lord Chaitanya decided to return to Puri. And soon after, he began with just Balabhadra Bhattacharya on his next journey to Vrindavan Dham. Meanwhile, Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they brought some really good Brahmins. And they had a teacher. Sanatan Goswami had a teacher who was studying him bhakti according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'll go a little before Lord Chaitanya came. I would just like to add, while they were performing all their government services so excellently, Nawab Hussain Shah just went out with armies conquering more and more land, and Rupa and Sanatan were running the whole kingdom. He was depending on them. But at the same time, they were so Krishna conscious that with their wealth, they built what they called Gupta Vrindavan, secret Vrindavan. They made a Kadamba Kanana, a Kadamba forest, a Radha Kund, a Shama Kund, a Giri Govardhan. They had a temple of Madan Mohan. They had the different Leela stands, or places of Krishna's Leela, that they put in the forests. And in this way, away from Vrindavan, they were meditating on Vrindavan, chanting the names of the Lord, discussing the Lord, praying to the Lord, loving the Lord with devotional service. And they built beautiful, beautiful assembly houses. And they would invite scholars and Vaishnavas and sadhus to come to discuss scriptures. And they built beautiful homes on the bank of the Ganges for all their guests. Bhakti Ratnakar tells that when they were sitting in the assembly of the greatest scholars of the whole area, they looked like Indra in a court of demigods. Rupa and Sanatan Their physical features were the essence of beauty. They were the greatest scholars in the world of Sanskrit, Persian, Bengali. They knew the scriptures. They were poets. They were billionaires. Everyone loved them. Even though they were ruling a kingdom, it explains, they were never harsh. They never insulted anyone. People would do anything they asked them to do because they had confidence that Rupa and Sanatana loved them so much. Can you imagine a ruler like that? And could you imagine how valuable they were to the Nawab Hussain Shah? They kept everything so good. But they were always longing to escape. So after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed them, Lord Chaitanya went back to Puri. And when he went back to Puri, he gathered all his devotees around him. And he said, I just met these two brothers, Rup and Sanatan. They have wealth like Indra. They have such beauty. They have such power, such fame, such knowledge. But yet, they have no ego. They think themselves the most fallen people in the world. Seeing such humility in such qualified people, irresistibly, I bestowed my full mercy upon them. Lord Chaitanya, as if he had 5 mouths, he was glorifying the qualities of Rupa and Sanatana. And in doing so, Mahajano Yena Gata Sabanta, he's teaching all of us what is actually valuable in our life, what we should really aspire for. So they had these very pure-hearted Brahmins and priests doing so many pujas to free them from all of their material entanglements. And then Rupa Goswami, he left along with his brother Anupam and started giving away all his wealth to proper sources. And he wrote a letter to Lord Chaitanya's secretary in Puri. And he got the message that Lord Chaitanya is going to Vrindavan. So Rupa Goswami had left. Sanatana Goswami still had to stay back to do some things. But Rupa Goswami sent a letter and said, I've sent 10,000 golden coins for you to help you get out of there. And Lord Chaitanya, I just got a message, he's on his way to Vrindavan, so we're going to Vrindavan, so you come to Vrindavan and meet us in Vrindavan Dham. And Rupa Goswami left. And Sanatana Goswami, he just lost all interest. And he sent a letter to the king that I'm sick. My health isn't good. I can't come to my services. So the king couldn't really rule the kingdom without him. So he sent some doctor, go make him better. And the doctor came back to the king and said, the king said, how is he? Is he getting better? He said, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just surrounded by these devotees reciting Srimad Bhagavatam all day. The king was furious. The king himself came. And he saw Sanatana Goswami just blissfully studying Srimad Bhagavatam with the Vaishnavas. And the king said, you are my brother, and I have to go out and conquer and rule, and I need you, and how could you do this? And Sanatana Goswami said, you can do anything you like with me, but I resign. So he was put in prison. If you go to Ramakeli, that prison cell is still there. It's like an underground, dark cell with no nice ventilation. in the service of the Lord, he accepted that place. But by his really good intelligence, and I'm not going to go into too many details, he convinced the prison guard to release him. And now he's a fugitive. And he's with his assistant, and they're going through some of the most dangerous jungles filled with dacoits and thieves and killers and ferocious lions and everything and tigers, and they're going somehow or other trying to escape. And when he found out that his servant had some money, 1 coin, he said, "You go back." He didn't want anything. And he was on his way to Vrindavan. And in Varanasi, he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya was returning from Vrindavan when Sanatana Goswami arrived on the bank of the Ganga at the Manikarnika Ghat. And Lord Chaitanya instructed him in the science of pure Braj Bhakti, pure devotional service, for 2 continuous months on the bank of the Ganga. And then he sent Sanatana Goswami, "I'm going to Puri, you go to Vrindavan. And there I want you to establish temples, rediscover the ancient original deities, excavate and reveal the holy places, and extract the very essence of all scriptures, the pure love of Vrindavan, and compile books." Sanatana Goswami came, he met Subudhi Rai and had a tour of all the 12 forests of Vrindavan. And then he was called to meet Lord Chaitanya in Puri. And on the way he drank some bad water and got terrible infections all over his body. They were itching and they were scratching and they were oozing and they were really terrible. And they were getting worse and worse. And he was thinking, we're not going to get past Manasi Ganga on this parikrama. Then what is the use of my life? During Ratha Yatra, in the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of his associates, in the presence of Lord Jagannath, while everyone's chanting the holy name, I will place my body under the wheel of the chariot and end this useless body. And when he came to Puri, he stayed at the kutir of Haridas Thakur. And the first day he came, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived. And he embraced Sanatana Goswami. And the pus and the blood and the infections all smeared on Lord Chaitanya's body. And Lord Chaitanya said, even without Sanatana revealing his thoughts, he said, you have no right to destroy another man's property. You have given your life to me, therefore your body is my property. You have no right to destroy it. And for almost a year, Sanatana Goswami was being embraced by Lord Chaitanya every day as his sores were getting worse and worse. And ultimately, Lord Chaitanya embraced him once more, and he became completely healthy and cured. And Lord Chaitanya sent him to perform his seva in Vrindavan. And Sanatana Goswami lived in Vrindavan for the rest of his life. The Madan Gopal temple, or Madan Mohan, was discovered by Advaitacharya under the Advaitavat. He's being worshipped in Gokul Mahavan. And Sanatana Goswami would see this little boy playing and dancing, and he followed him, and he went into the temple, and he saw the little boy became the deity. And ultimately Krishna came to Sanatana Goswami, Dvadasadityatil, and later a wealthy person came and built the beautiful temple in the service of Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatan would wander throughout Braj Bhumi, from village to village. He was so kind. He had such compassion. Everyone loved him. He just loved Krishna and cared about everyone. He would go to a village and the whole village would come to the outskirts to greet him. They were so happy. They were waiting for this throughout the year. When will Sanatan come? And when he would come, they would all be there to greet him, and some would touch his feet, and he was their father, he was their brother, he was their friend, he was their son, he was their everything. He would embrace them, and they'd sit him down and bring him the best grains that they grew all year and the best milk products and feed him. And he would do Krishna Katha, but part of his Krishna Katha was, how are your cows, and how is your wife, and how is your husband, and how is your children, and what happened with this problem you told me last time. And he was just there for him, and he cared about every detail of their life. He was their guru. And he'd usually stay one day, and then the next morning when he was leaving, the whole village would come to see him off. And they'd all be crying, begging, please come back soon. And then he'd leave. And when he would arrive at the next village, everybody would be there to greet him, celebrating, dancing. And when he would leave the next day, they would all be crying and begging him to come back soon. And there's one village called Baitan, where the villagers the Brajavasis were so deeply moved by attachment to Sanatana Goswami from the very hearts, that as he was leaving, they were crying and begging him, please stay 3 more days. So he stayed 3 more days. So that village is named after him staying. Once Sanatana Goswami was with Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami was showing him some of his compositions. And Sanatana Goswami saw one particular description. It described the braids of Srimati Radharani to look like 2 black snakes. And Sanatana Goswami said, I don't think this is the right example to describe Srimati Radharani's